So I got a feeling this is going to be one of my favorite pods once we get done because today Sierra and I are joined by Jackson Franklin, who, if you don't know who Jackson Franklin is, you're about to find out. We're going to break things down. We're going to talk about the issues, not only in the state of Indiana, but on a national level. And we're going to try to make it make sense. So, Jackson, I got to tell you, man, I'm thrilled to death that you found the time to join us. And I know Sierra and you have never met until now, but um, we're going to become friends, or you two are going to become friends real quick because you and I met over a year ago down in Indianapolis. I believe it was in March, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Um,
I think it's the women's protest March 8th,
no, it was
something
the
like
one
that.
before that. It was the very first one that, I
Yeah,
think it was the first 50-51. Because the
okay.
woman's protest was like the second one I attended. But anyway, I can remember the moment because I was sitting there and I listened to you talk, and it wasn't a very big crowd. And I was 61 years old at the time, and I believe you were 25. And
24.
I was sitting there, 24. Okay,
Yeah. Now
I
I'm
was
26.
sitting there.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was sitting there and I was like, "Who is this kid?" And I didn't mean that in a negative way. I was just, because you're younger than my kid, okay? But I was so blown away and impressed by what you had to say, and I just was like, I got to go up and talk to this dude. So I approached you guys. I met your brother first and started talking to you, and I believe, and it doesn't matter. I was one of the first content creators that put information out about you or made something about you. So we've been acquaintances ever since, and have become friends. And I have a great deal of respect for you. So thanks for joining us. So
Thank you so much for having me, Kurt, Sierra. It's a pleasure to
yeah.
meet you, and I'm excited for the conversation we're gonna have. A lot of interesting things to talk about, a lot of interesting things happening both in Indiana, the country, and the world. We live in dire times, and I'm just glad to be chatting it out with you guys. And yeah, I'm ready to get down into it.
So
Yeah.
I came to Jackson a little different. I actually found you on social media and was just so interested in a candidate who said genocide because I actually was in the undecided movement for Kamala Harris, mostly because it was just as an Arab. It's offensive when you just can't even say genocide because never again was supposed to mean never again for everyone. And so if you can't stand on that, I don't think that you can stand on any other issue, healthcare, abortion, education. It's just hard to imagine that you could stand up for those values and not stand up for literal human life. So it was just refreshing to see that. And I've also actually met you in person one time. I don't know if you remember, but I was a door holder at an event you were at. And out of every person that day, you were the only person to stop and say, "Hi, how are you?" And then walked out the door, and I just thought, "Wow." I mean, I was
Oh,
in, like, a hoodie, I looked like a bum, I was studying in the corner, and everybody just ignored me, and you were just like, "Hi, how are you?" And I thought that was
man,
incredible, so
Oh,
that's
that's
really
who he
sweet.
is.
I'm glad to hear
That's who
that.
he is. He's down to earth, you know? He's
mhm,
he's
very
not
approachable.
Yeah, he's not about all the bullshit. And that's what his appeal is. That's what your appeal is. I'm talking like you're not here, but that's
I
what your
appreciate
appeal
that.
is,
I
man.
appreciate
Yeah. I mean, and what she just said is right. That's why people are drawn to you. Because of the issues that you have stood on from the very beginning and you haven't wavered. You have not. In fact, you've become stronger on them because people give you pushback, and you're like, hell no. Damn it, this is what I believe, and I'm going to stand where I believe. I'm not going to bend or fold to the establishment. And
Yeah.
we know you've had many reasons to, because the Indiana Democratic Party, dude, they're doing everything they can to keep you out of office.
I would say that they view us as a threat to the establishment, and I have just
Oh
one
yeah.
thing to admit. We are that threat to the political establishment. They are so used to be like, "Oh, well, hey, here we're gonna put some light, passive pressure on somebody and they'll bend," and then I'm like, "No, like, I'm not gonna stop talking about, money in politics just because blue team takes it. Maybe blue team shouldn't take it." I view that as treason. If a politician takes corporate PAC money and then turns their back on the will of the people they are supposed to serve in the first place, I call them a traitor. And things such as, like, the DNC not condemning AIPAC as a literal Holocaust is going on, ethnic cleansing, that's unacceptable. So I call it out, I call balls and strikes, and I think the working class has to find ways out of the hole that we're in, and it's gonna take working class people to do that. It's not don't look for some, like, outside help, some out of state, politician to come in and sweep us Hoosiers out of the trying times we're in. It's gonna take us. It's as civil rights leader John Lewis once said, "The power of the people is greater than the people in power." It's up to us to organize this power, this grassroots movement, and actually take take the fight to them and actually uphold the Constitution and have a nation of buying for the people, not just of buying for the billionaire class.
And I think the crazy thing is that people will say that that sounds radical. Like what you say is radical. That's why we need a corporate JD Ford to be implanted into this race. And it is just, they are so out of fucking touch. Like you can see that with the not condemning APAC spending in our primaries, but they are just so deeply out of touch. They want to say accountability, but then they don't want to deliver on what that actually means for people. And it's the exact like left wing economic populace that you're talking about. It's the policies of like paid family leave, of universal health care, of getting money out of politics. Because yes, how can you expect to work on the affordable housing crisis? Like I'm sure Jackson intimately knows, like our generation doesn't understand what it is to own a home really. Like if for the few that do, we're lucky. But most of my friends do not, and the median home buying age is 40 years old. Like, what are these octogenarians in power going to do about that? What is a JD Ford who takes money from the National Realtors Association and his at the state level? What is he going to do on a federal level? Probably take money from those same fucking people. And that's not going to do anything for working class people who cannot afford a home. And why there are some Democrats who will try to tell us to just take from Team Blue big money and expect that that will deliver us any kind of economic justice down here for the little people. Like, are we still waiting on trickle down economics? Seriously, it's just being rewrapped to something else, is what it feels like.
Yeah. Yeah, the problem with this extreme capitalism that we have nowadays is eventually the working class runs out of money. To steal the Margaret Thatcher quote of like, "Oh, the problem with socialism is eventually everyone runs out of money." It's like, no, the top 1% has been sucking out all the oxygen in the room, and you see the wealth disparity right now. The top 1% have more wealth than the bottom 93% of income earners combined. Combined, that is, you can't even wrap your head around that much money. And that's the
Mm-mm.
system such as the Democratic establishment is trying to uphold. They don't want to tackle the root causes of this wealth inequality. They just want to say Trump bad, Republican bad, or they don't even say oh like that. When there's an actual fascist party that are like trying to kill us, they still want to like meet halfway on healthcare, meet halfway on
Mm.
like women's rights. Democrats had all the time in the world with a supermajority to codify Roe versus Wade, which was the compromise. When we take back power, we should not be compromising with these fascists. Human rights are not on the table. We need to codify these things and fight back how Democrats are supposed to fight back. And that's when we're going to take back this state. And that's how we're going to take back this country.
And that's why we have to change the representation that we have in this country, because we know for a fact in our state and on the national level, these people don't have the cojones to do any of this shit. They are not going to play hardball with any of this stuff. They're going to sit back and let shit happen the way it happens. And it's just mind-boggling to me. Just for instance, in the state of Indiana, we have a record number of people who have signed to become delegates and precinct chairs and run for office. We haven't seen this since 1974, okay? That's when women were allowed to get credit cards for the first time. That's how fucking long this has been, okay? And the IDP is standing around acting like they fucking did something. No, this is happening because you didn't do anything. It's not because of anything you did. It's because of all the shit you did not do, and people are fucking tired of it. And that's why candidates like you, Jackson, and others around the country are becoming more popular, and people are getting behind you because of what you stand for and what you want to do as a representative. You want to work for the people because you understand that's who you fucking work for.
Right.
Not the bullshit corporations like, JD, who, we'll talk a little bit about it, what happened last night. But people like that just make my fucking skin crawl. And we're dealing with Bo Biden now, too, in this state, which is just,
They sure
another
it's
whole subject on its
serving the
own.
Epstein
So,
class and not the working class.
exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, while
Going
these
for
out
the
of touch
oligarchs.
Democrats are telling you, don't look, it doesn't matter if he is MAGA funded, AIPAC funded, school privatization funded, Epstein class funded, none of these ties seem to matter. His dad literally works as a senior advisor at the company that has manages a lot of Hoosiers' pension funds. And he would be the Secretary of State in charge of our securities and finances. I mean, the
His
Secretary of State
dad
does
is
more
the
than
leader of the
elections.
No Labels Party.
Right.
His dad is a fucking leader of the No Labels Party. I mean,
It feels like we're being sold the same establishment bullshit in a younger package. They're just like, "Look,
mhm.
Bo's young. He's 30 something. You think he's 30?" Like, I don't know, Jackson, you're young. We're young. I haven't seen Bo by around this state. I've been here for 29 years. I haven't seen Bo by once. I don't remember him at any of the protests downtown, and I've been to lots of them over my years. I've been to soup kitchens and churches and mosques, and I've been everywhere in this fucking state, and I've not seen Bo by.
Yeah. I don't care if, like, the person's running for, like, the town dog catcher. If you can't call what's going, on in Gaza a genocide, you don't have eyes to see that, then I don't trust you in public office. Like, people say, like, "Oh, the Secretary of State is kind of like an administrative role." Alright, well, it says a lot about your morals if you don't have the eyes to see that bombing children is wrong, and you don't have the moral courage to actually call out power where you see wrongdoing. So what else are you bending over backwards to appease the people in power? Why can't you just stand with the people? You know what I want out of my leaders? Leadership. Point the
Mhm.
way, be a light in the dark pointing to a more just system and governance, and not, like, just instantly caving because you're scared you're gonna piss off some, like, large corporate donor or Epstein class donor. We need to actually stand with our principles, and that's how we're gonna win, but that's just how government is supposed to be like. It's completely flipped on its head nowadays.
Yeah,
Yeah, and we just have this.
Bo Bai is everything that I mean, that's who this dude is. And he people who don't think that his dad's going to have an influence on him and that the money that he's gained, like, when you as Secretary of State candidate receive $300,000 from an auto dealership tycoon, and one of your main responsibilities is to oversee auto dealerships in the state of Indiana.
Right.
Tell me, just tell me. I don't have any proof. Tell me that that donation isn't going to get called in once Bo is in office. I mean, this hits home with Sierra because her husband is is an auto mechanic. This is his life. This is what he does. And this guy, this Johnson dude, I mean, $300,000. $300,000. Oh, that's no big deal. Well, it
Yeah,
takes money to win campaigns.
his automotive company has ties to, Asbury Automotive, which is a huge player in Central Indiana. They own a lot of our dealerships, all the Bill Estises, a couple of Hare Hondas, and, like, a Calio Jeep or something like that. But yeah, they are extremely exploitative. There is stuff as benign as, like, you just don't get a break. You don't get your 15-minute break, or you don't get a lunch that day because they're short, and so no lunch. But then there are things where it's just straight up like not paying for overtime or paying. There was one instance, and my husband would speak better to it than I would, um, where he was not paid properly. Like the pay stubs were not adding up, and it was we went to the labor department. We're like, this is kind of wage theft. We were expected this amount of money and didn't get it. And they said, oh well, because you had a day where you took some paid family leave or some program where it's temporary medical assistance. Um, because of that, they robbed Peter to pay Paul essentially, but it's technically legal. And we were just going, "Oh, okay, so how do I tell my mortgage company that because of some tricky baziki shit you did, I can now not pay my mortgage? What do I do with that?" And the Department of Labor was like, "Yeah, it is kind of shady, but it's legal. So kick rocks."
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Hence the whole
Mhm.
purpose of why they lobby our politicians in the first place. Because the thing
Mhm.
is, as we've been heavily insinuating, we all know that money has strings attached to it. They act like, oh,
Absolutely.
well, like this money doesn't influence me. And then, one of my competitors who just happened to take corporate PAC money says that, like, oh, well, like they get greater access, but I don't like bend my ear. Like, I don't change policy. And like, you just said it just that gives them more access than like your typical voter. That is not fair. We need to overturn Citizens United, obviously, is the big answer. It equated, giving unlimited amounts of campaign funds to a politician's campaign as freedom of speech. Money equals freedom of speech, thanks to Citizens United. And that's not democracy. Like, if money equals freedom of speech, whoever has the loudest, whoever's the wealthiest has the loudest voice. That's oligarchy. Of course, we have to have
Mhm.
public financing of elections and ban corporate PACs. Like, I think that should be like hard time behind bars if you take corporate PAC money. We should just serve the people you're supposed to serve.
yeah, and the
Mhm.
most insidious thing about them equating money to speech is that it puts the courts in this bind where you have to decide, are you going to regulate speech? What meets the threshold of strict scrutiny to regulate that speech? And you have to remind people, we're not talking about actual speech. We're talking about money. Like money is not actually speech, despite what Buckley v. Vallejo laid the groundwork for, despite Citizens United. Money is not really speech. And when you put it in that category, what you're saying is essentially we are allowing unfettered money into our politics as if we would allow a citizen to have unfettered speech in our politics. And that is why we don't have elections. It's why we have auctions.
For sure.
Yeah, exactly right. And you touched on a little bit about one of your opponents, which you're talking about JD Ford. Okay. Let's get this out here. And just so people who don't are not familiar with Indiana and what's going on in the fifth district, which is held by Victoria Spartz right now, who is the Ukrainian uh who lives in Indiana and represents the fifth district, who is anti-Ukrainian. So this is who's MAGA. This is who you're trying to unseat, and you got a very good chance of doing that. But what has happened in your race is that were you the first one to um,
Yeah.
apply for okay, so you were the first
Well,
Democrat
I
to.
I w I started this campaign immediately after last election. So, I
Okay.
was the first one on the ground, like, even before you could even technically file to run, I was running, because,
Okay.
the work for November 2026 for me didn't just start in January 2026 when that's, like, kind of like the establishment traditional thing to do. No, it began not just in 2025, it began late 2024 because we
For
are
yeah.
grassroots. Like, all we have is people power. Like, if you wanna be a grassroots candidate, just like, "Hey, like, I've been involved. I don't have all the political connections that of, like, someone who's been in the system, an insider for so long." You have to find that out, and I knew it was gonna take time to really build that momentum, and I was just very passionate, like, what else could you do? We see
Yeah.
the
So
rise of
so
fascism.
basically, yeah, so basically after the 24 election, you said, "Fuck it." Here you are a National Guard member, you and your brother, you're working as a paramedic, 24 elections happen, and you said, "Fuck it, I'm gonna get involved," and that's when and you started. And now we have 7 people running for
Yeah, there's 7
your
Democrats running on
Democrats
the
running,
Democratic line. There's one there's
and
someone who's actually primarying Victoria Sparks, but, like, that's a, shot in the dark,
Yeah.
I'm
Right.
glad someone is, but she's
Right.
endorsed by Trump. You know what I say, you mentioned her being
Yeah.
Ukrainian, but she's anti-Ukraine. What I say
Right.
about Icky Vicky, is that she's a walking contradiction. She's an oxymoron. Well, she's a moron too.
Mhm.
She's a Ukrainian that doesn't support Ukraine. She's an
Mhm.
immigrant that doesn't support other immigrants. She literally
Immigrants,
said
yeah.
criminals do not deserve due process at her
Right.
town hall.
I
And
almost
she's a
forgot
Yeah.
that,
woman.
Jim.
She's a woman
Yeah.
that does not support other women's rights. But something that does
Yeah.
make complete sense is that she's a millionaire that does anything in the interest of other millionaires and billionaires. She is
So she's
totally,
textbook
she's the
MAGA.
swamp
She's
creature.
textbook MAGA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, she wants to say she's pro-life, but at the same time, she supports and arms a genocide that's killing babies. So how's the pro-life thing going for you, Vicky? You know?
Yeah. So the IDP, the Indiana Democratic Party, kind of didn't like what you were doing and the momentum you were gaining. They kind of frown on that. In fact, they're trying to suppress a lot of progressives in the state of Indiana. They're doing some shady shit. Let's just leave it at that. So what they decided to do, and again, uh, do I have actual proof? No, but you doesn't take a genius to figure this out. They decided to take JD Ford, who is a popular Indianapolis dude, you know, already in position, and move him to a district that he doesn't even fucking live in to run against you because he's more of the type of candidate that they want. And it's not going too well for JD. In fact, last night, and people need to look this up, Indiana District 5 had a Meet the Candidates Forum, or is that what you should call it?
Yeah.
And you, buddy, you pretty much stole the show, and uh, you fucking embarrassed him, really. I mean, some of the shit, and I'll share some of the stuff. We'll share some of the stuff that happened, a little short reel and some things. Um, but you kind of slammed the door on that dude, and I I was loving it. I was like,
I bet.
you know,
It
I'm
made me
sitting there
think of that
watching.
scene in The Princess Bride where he's like, "You say this word, but it does not mean what I think you think it
Yeah,
means."
exactly.
I was
Yeah.
sitting there listening to it with my earbuds on, and my wife was sitting next to me on the couch, of course, watching or reading a book actually. And I was like, "Yeah, tell him," and she was looking at me like,
That's so funny.
but I
Yeah.
loved it, man. You were
Yeah.
awesome. So I think
Context for
you,
the viewer, there was a question about corporate money in politics. How can you trust your politicians? Yada, what do you want to get accomplished in Congress? And you each get 1 minute to respond. So it's like so much policy, 1 minute.
right,
And Steve Event, who's first alphabetically, and like I've actually, over the course of like since everyone's been running, I'm kind of like dragging them all to the left, I would say, like well to the center populist, right? And he made a fantastic point or like statement. It was like raise your hand if you've never taken any corporate PAC money, and everyone raised their hand except for one, our dear friend JD. And then
JD
then it
Ford,
was
yeah,
JD's turn, and he said, well, like, I'm proud to say I'm grassroots. And then immediately after, it was me, and I
yeah.
was like, "I'm sorry. I thought grassroots meant you didn't take corporate PAC money. Am I mistaken? I'm pretty sure that's what that means." And then he was shaking his head, "No, no." But, so yeah, it did
Yeah,
not it was not a good night to be on the corporate campaign, no.
I'll tell you what got me though, was the looks.
Yeah.
You know, when 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 the hands were raised and he didn't raise the hand, you gave a subtle like that, and
Mhm.
I was
That
like,
was so
yeah,
great. I
I
lost
was
it.
like,
That little,
oh
I
man,
see you,
if
boo. Mhm.
yeah, what where's your hand at, bud? Oh yeah, right. You fucking take corporate money. And then he calls himself grassroots. There's a lot of candidates that call themselves grassroots. Evidently, they don't fucking know what the definition of grassroots is. Okay, evidently, grassroots means corporate donations, and we have a list of corporate donations that JD takes from. Ice Miller, 4250. General Motors, 2000. UPS, 1000. Anheuser-Busch, 1000. CVS Caremark, $800. AT&T, $500. JP Morgan, $500. T-Mobile, $450. Does that sound fucking grassroots to you, JD?
And many
I
more, I
mean,
might say. Eli Lilly's in
right,
there. Yeah.
right.
Okay,
Yeah,
so when
I didn't even.
if I want to
Indiana
know,
Health
will
Group.
he go to Congress and argue to negotiate the price of prescription drugs, an issue I very deeply care about? I have psoriatic arthritis, and CVS Caremark is my pharmacy that I get exploited by regularly. So, do I think that someone like that is going to work hard to make sure I can afford my life-changing medication? Absolutely the fuck not. I mean,
Yeah, and
this
let
man
me
does
give
not
you
care
the
about
energy
people.
and big pharma ones. Okay, Duke Energy, $3,600. Next Era Energy, 2250. Eli Lilly, 1000. Centerpoint, 600. AEP, 550. Anthem Incorporated, 500. Pfizer, $250. There you go.
There was
Again,
actually a
Single payer health
just
question.
care?
Yeah.
No, he doesn't care
There
about that.
there was a question about healthcare, like, "What's your healthcare plan?" And I was second to last. So, basically, everyone went except for me and then someone else, but I already know their position is Medicare for all. And JD just said, like, "Oh, we need to just expand the ACA." And I
He
made it
said,
clear,
"Pimp
I
it
was like,
out to
"Did
Anthem."
I was like, "Did you know that everyone else just said Medicare for all or single payer except for one?" And I said, "I think the big health insurance lobby has been at work here, and you can tell that by what they're not saying. Everyone else
exactly.
thinks healthcare is a human right except for the corporate campaigns." And,
Mm-hmm.
with 70% of the nation, according to a poll from The Hill, Republicans, Democrats, independents alike, 70% of the nation wants Medicare for all. So there's a huge divide between what we, the working class, wants and what our corrupt politicians want once they get in power. And that's exactly the problem because they are lobbied by Indiana Health Group and all these big farm and private health insurance companies. And they're just tweaks around the edges. Don't tackle the root cause. Don't get big ideas like what every other developed nation on the planet can do. There's 33 developed nations. We rank last place out of all of them. We have the most expensive healthcare system in the world, but yet 120,000 Americans die every year due to lack of health insurance. And I've seen it on the ambulance, people denying to get further care because they can't afford it. But here we are, we have politicians that are, the corporations are in their pockets and they are not saying what needs to be said. They're not bringing forth the leadership that this nation needs right now. And that's why primaries are so important. We have 19
Mm-hmm.
days until the election, and this race will decide whether the people win this election or will the big money donors win this election. And I have bad news for the establishment. We are gaining traction. And the last
Mm-hmm.
real presidential primary that we had in this state, Bernie Sanders won this state, and not only he won the entire state, he won all 6 counties of the 5th district, and 10 years after his victory, a grassroots progressive will win it again, but we need all the help that we can get. And I'm very optimistic, not just for the primary, but we're also going to replace the fascist that is Victoria Spartz that cut 18 million people's health care by cutting away Medicaid into one big beautiful bill. So we can't have a brighter future. We just have to fight for it.
And I think it's so
Yeah,
crazy
man.
that the
I mean, that's what I'm talking about. Why
Right.
can't people see this shit? Why can't people get behind dudes
No,
like
the
you, man?
Democrats can't
This
see
is
this
what we
shit.
fucking need. I mean,
No, and they wanna know
damn.
why they think that we don't see them as an opposition party. They wonder why we think that they are out to lunch and don't care about us, and it is exactly this, because they play for Team Green, they take the same money from the same fascists in the Republican side, and they work for the same donors. And so when you keep saying accountability, but not offering any kind of actual substantive policies that would help with working class people, when you don't offer universal health care, when you're still over here talking about corporate subsidies and Obamacare bullshit in the year of our Lord 2026, and you want to know why democracy is breaking right now, it's because it doesn't fucking work. It's because it doesn't
Yeah.
fucking work. 70% of
Extend the
Americans
ACA.
want to see a certain policy and it doesn't see the light of day in Congress. That is not democracy at work. That is the rule of the rich. And when we are screaming that we are being run by oligarchs and fascists and that the house is on fire and Democrats are like, shut up, we've got a plan. We're going to keep taking money from the oligarchs and the fascists and somehow it'll just put the fire out.
Yeah.
They're the fucking
No,
arsons.
Yeah.
They're the ones
exactly.
that set the house on fire. How in the hell are we expecting that they're coming with a fire hose? Are we serious right now?
Yeah, again, the turnout and the number of people that are getting involved in politics now, especially the younger generation, has nothing to fucking do with what the Democratic Party has done to excite them. It's everything that they haven't fucking done, and people are finally saying enough is enough. And especially the younger generation, which you touched on earlier, who can't afford to fucking even survive. And then you look at the older generation. I'm the last of the boomers. I'm 62 years old. My wife and I just had to go and do our taxes. I mean, come on. You want to talk about some scary shit for the older? We don't know what are we going to be able to stay in our house for another 10 years or until, we're no longer, I mean, these are scary fucking times and it shouldn't fucking be that way. It should not be this way. And so
Yeah.
that's why change has to occur. And I know one thing you mentioned all the time that you failed to mention, and I'm going to throw it out there and then, you could take over. What is the number one reason people file bankruptcy in this country?
Medical bankruptcy.
There you
It's
go.
medical bankruptcy, and it's a uniquely American experience. It's because we have a profits over people's kind of system, a
Hmm.
for-profit system that prioritizes the profits of the billionaire health and CEOs instead of the lives that are dying thanks to this system. That's why our campaign slogan is proudly saying people over profits because that's what the system is supposed to do. But you mentioned like, oh, we don't have a real opposition party. And hey, we have an opposition party, a controlled opposition party, enough money to win the primary, but unpopularly sanitize the message down to be corporate safe, enough to always lose in the general. It's up to us to take back the party from the corporatist. And, I think someone said like 2024 election was between the oligarchs and the corporatist. And it's like minor differences of like, we want a semblance of democracy, but still it's the same owners versus no semblance of democracy. And it's just, bring forth the next gilded age, which we are definitely already in. And yeah, we need a clear contrast between the two parties. We have two right-wing parties, and that's why voter turnout in Indiana is 50 it's ranked 50th last midterm election. 60% of registered voters in 2022 did not vote. And that's because a lot of times people feel as if they know the Republicans are going to stab you right in the face, but they also feel and see that the Democrats are going to stab you in the back. We need to get corporate money out of our politics, and we need to have a democracy that's actually worth saving. Instead of making it harder to vote, make it easier to vote. Have automatic
Mhm,
voter registration, public
mhm.
funding of elections, making election day a national holiday. We can have these things, but we have to make sure that the people win our primaries and not the corporate dogs that the establishment keeps sending our way.
Yeah, you're talking about voting, and this is one of the things. There's a lot of talk on social media, and it's been going on for a long time. We call MAGA a cult, and it gets overused sometimes. I think I think people lose what that actually means. But to me, here's the proof: we have a dude who's trying to sign executive orders and talks about voter fraud and has been saying for years, get rid of mail-in ballots and get rid of all this. And then the motherfucker goes and votes as a mail-in ballot. He votes that fucking way while he's telling his base it's fraud. He's fucking doing it and then stands up there and actually makes a legitimate excuse for it, but that's what everybody fucking does and uses it for.
He
And
said, "Rules for thee and not for me."
yes, it blows me away. And it's like, how many times does this dude have to make a fool of all of you before you fucking understand what in the hell is going on?
I just can't believe you're
It's
talking about our Lord and Savior like that. I mean, clearly that he's Jesus and he needs to be deified as much as possible.
yeah.
And he knows
Well,
way
no,
more
that was a
better than the
doctor's
Pope.
uniform. That was a doctor's uniform.
Yeah,
I don't know if you
he
guys saw the Iranian Lego video that came out for that piece for his claiming to be fake Jesus, but it was pretty good. We're
I
getting
really
roasted in the meme
I
wars.
think the Iranian propaganda machine is doing the Lord's work, inshallah, because,
Yeah.
like, I
We
love the video where it's Pete Hegseth, like, "You're" or no, they were like, "Oh, you rapist, war criminal," and then they had
yeah,
this other chorus one where it was like, "Your government is run by pedophiles.
Oh,
They
that one
want
is
you
my
to die
favorite.
for
It's
yeah,
such
Israel."
a fucking banger. It's so
Oh,
true, and
no.
it sounds like the Iranian Eminem. Like, I wanna see the
Yeah.
Iranian Slim Shady. That's
we
so
Like,
good.
why would I
we were
unironically
talking.
listen to that song? Like, why is it so catchy? And then there's like
It's so catchy
Yeah,
because it's so true. They are clearly so plugged into, like, the American
yeah.
zeitgeist
oh,
in
yeah.
a way that
We
should kind of scare us, that they are
we
more
took.
in tune like, the young Iranians
Right.
are clearly
Yeah,
more in tune with Americans than our fucking politicians
They
are.
we
got
That
their
we,
should
we
finger
absolutely
on the
scare us.
yeah,
fucking pulse, like, I'm like, "How? How can our, Middle East, you know, people already know, like, what we're thinking more than our own politicians?" And it goes to
right.
prove our politicians should know better, like, they do, they just don't care.
They
So
don't
that's
care. Yeah.
yeah.
It's funny because we talked about this the other day in a pod. Me and Sierra and I did. We were talking about the propaganda machine that's coming out of Iran, and it's like, oh my god, these people are like, they're right on it, and it just it blows me away. But the fact is that we have an incompetent fucking dictator and a drunken fool as the War Department head, and they went into the Middle East like this and did Bibi's work for them, and they underestimated their opponent, and they're getting their asses handed to them now. And so now they're like, okay, well, we need now $1.7 trillion more so we can blow the fuck out of this whole
This was
country.
a war
And
that not even George W. Bush wanted. Even George W. Bush and Donald Rumsfeld, Dick Cheney, all of them, they all sat and watched this presentation and were like, "Hells no, we're not going into Iran. That is the dumbest thing. Let's settle for Saddam Hussein in Iraq. How about that?"
Right. Well,
I
it's
mean,
Bibi's been
because
and
asking.
Donald
Israel
Trump and Pete Hegseth
yeah,
are like, "Fuck yeah, let's go."
Yeah, we're
I
gonna do
can
it.
see nothing wrong with this. What could
Yeah,
happen? What
we're
could go
we're
wrong?
the tough guys. We're gonna do it, and they're getting their asses handed to them. BB's been wanting this done since 1995. I think that's the first video that I could find or that people have found where he's talking about, pretty soon Iran's gonna have nuclear weapons. So this
Well,
shit's been
Turkey
going on
needs to
since
start watching their back
1995.
because right now Israeli media is talking about Turkey and talking about how they are very anti-Semitic and that Erdogan is a problem in the region, and we're going to need to start looking to Turkey. And then you see Trump attacking NATO, and people are going, "Well, that's strange. Why?" It's like the Israelis are telling you in their media. They just tell their people. They
Mm.
manufacture consent and just tell their people. So
yeah,
Is
when
Turkey part of their bigger map or their bigger
there is
state that they want
no,
to
it
create?
it's
goes
not.
up to, like,
It's a threat,
Damascus.
though.
Okay.
But,
Huh?
they are a power like, they're an influential,
Turkey fucks around a
nation.
lot with the Kurds
Yeah.
in Syria and Iraq and stuff, so they're seen
Okay.
as like a regional power that could theoretically, uh, you know, threaten Israel.
Things like this will happen when Jeffrey Epstein worked for Mossad, and now Israel has blackmail on the president raping children. And I don't think they had that on Obama. I don't think they even had that on Bush Jr., but they have it on Trump. So we got to make sure that he's compromised. This is the most compromised president in American history. I mean,
Well,
as
now
well as
it's
most
Period.
corrupt.
anti-Semitic to say that.
Period.
Have you heard this? Like,
Yeah,
there are Democrats now saying it, Democratic pundits
they're
saying that
lobbied
it
by
is
AIPAC.
anti-Semitic to
Yeah,
say that Israel is running Donald Trump or
yeah.
has blackmail over him.
It's crazy that the Democratic establishment will say that, and there's a huge, divide between like the top 1%ers of the Democratic Party because 90 there was a Gallup poll or CNN poll where 91% of Democrats are anti-Israel now because they commit genocide. Obviously, it seems like a pretty rational thing to be against. But then there's the consultant group, the politicians, like the DC insiders that do take lobby money from AIPAC, and now they're saying like, "Oh, that's anti-Semitic," and it's just propaganda. It's literally just lies. There's Zionism is not Judaism, and Judaism is not Zionism. They're actually contradictory beliefs. Judaism at its core is a peaceful religion, but whatever apartheid South Africa's religion was, if they try to conflate the same thing, like, no, that's not what we wanted. Not in my name, as the group go. It's a Jewish group. Not in my name. Stop killing people all in the name of Judaism. You have this another group, Jewish Voices for Peace, because that's what evangelical Judaism is peaceful, but dragging the name through the mud, and now you see a legit rise in anti-Semitism. Turns out when you kill and displace, hundreds of thousands or displace millions of people in the name of a group, people tend to look more unfavorably to that group. And that's Benjamin Netanyahu, that's the Israeli government, that's our government, both under Biden and Trump. That's their fault. That's their, like we should undo the propaganda machine. We have to deconflate these things. And, I might even say, like, this is kind of a hot take that we would not, like, the world would be safer if Iran had a nuke. Because do you think have we bombed North Korea? They have a nuke. Why haven't we bombed them? Well, Obama's Iranian nuclear agreement was working fine.
Huh?
The
It was.
IAEA was like completely checking their uranium levels, making sure it wasn't enriched to a certain point of weaponization.
Ayatollah Khomeini
Yeah.
also had a fatwa saying that they would never
Oh
build
yeah.
a nuclear bomb because that would be haram, that would be against their religion. His son does not feel the same way, unfortunately, but, you know,
Do you
we had
blame them?
to bomb him.
Yeah. Now it'd be silly of Iran not to get a nuke at this point.
I agree completely, and I know that
Yeah.
that is a hot take for a lot of
Yeah, people will
people,
hate that, but
but it's
yeah,
true, and we
yeah,
don't posture to North Korea. Why do India and Pakistan have the biggest reasons to hate each other? They are constantly posturing this little thing at the border where they're, faux fighting. Why don't they ever break out into a hot war? Because they both have nuclear power or nuclear weapons rather. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, if Iran wanted to be safe in that region, to have an assurance, they should have been building a nuclear weapon instead of keeping the enrichment at 3.67%, like the JCPOA outlined. They were following the IAEA, they were following it to a T, and they continued to after Trump left that deal in 2018. Right after, they continued to follow and only enrich uranium to a civilian level because of the fatwa and also because they truly believed that America would pull its head out of its ass and move on with Trump and re-enter the deal, and that turned out to not be true. But
right,
taking it back to Israel just super quickly, pointing out that anti-Semitism is and anti-Zionism are not the same thing. Yes, and I think people would also be so interested and shocked to find out that the Theodor Herzl, the father of Zionism, the man who wrote The Jewish State in the late 1800s, he was a secular Jew. He wasn't actually very religious. He actually was really kind of atheist. He was starting to lean more that way. So just culturally Jewish, and he was talking about needing to find a place for the Jewish people, a safe home for the Jewish people in any land. They were thinking about Argentina. They thought about Uganda seriously for a time. And then they decided on Palestine because they decided that that had a religious link to it that would be more beneficial to their founding myth and to their nationalist movement than in Uganda. So it absolutely has nothing to do with the religion. And the founders of this movement knew that and said that. Jabotinsky in his Iron Wall document says that. He pretty much says also that this is a settler colonial project. The
Yeah.
Arabs will never agree to this. They're never going to agree to foreigners coming, stealing their land, ethnically cleansing them, and promising what? A railroad? That is literally what Jabotinsky wrote. He knew that we were never going to admit to sell our homeland, our motherland, for a railroad and some bridges. Like, you're not going to bring infrastructure and tell us we're uncivilized and you don't like our way of life and then just drop your civilization right on top of us and think that that won't cause issues? Like, that is problematic, and I understand the need for a Jewish home, but Christians in Europe are who did this to the Jewish people. Jews were living in Palestine peacefully. They've been living in the Levant peacefully. In Spain, we lived side by side, Christians, Muslims, Arabs, in a time of convivencia in medieval Spain before the Crusaders drove out those Muslim infidels and the Jews along with them. So, like, this is not a religious issue. This is completely a political issue that can be solved if people would put the bullshit aside and recognize that we are all humans. And at the end of the day, all we want is a safe place to put our fucking head at night and know that we have a dignified job that can pay our bills. All of us, Israelis, Arabs, Palestinians, everyone.
And you see what's going on with Gaza in the sense that they want to displace more than 2 million people so they can make a separate canal so they don't have to go through the Suez Canal with Egypt. And it all comes back down to political influence, trade lanes, and, just political power. They want to dominate people, and it's like manifest destiny. We can look back, I'd say most of us could look back at the Native American genocide and be like, that was wrong. Oh, like, human history, we should not have done that. That was very grotesque. And now they're doing the exact same thing in Gaza. And the Western world is just sitting out there, like, not doing anything. Hands are tied. The UN can, call it a genocide, but by the end of the day, if no one actually interferes, like, what's good? Like, oh, it's, you're just calling, you just, "Oh, I'm going to watch it." I'm a very passionate observer of genocide. But, there was only one way we stopped the Holocaust. It was by invading Germany. So, and I
Yeah.
deployed to Kosovo with the army as a combat medic, and we went into Kosovo to stop the genocide. So I wonder how long the world, like, we have to set a precedent at the world, like, level, like the UN level of, like, when someone's committing genocide, the whole world has to immediately get involved. It is all of our responsibility. Like, the children of the world have no nation. They belong, like, to everyone. It's all of our responsibility in that sense, that you can't allow them to just use starvation, drought as a weapon of destruction. The mass starvation. We have to stand up for human rights across the board. We have to correct the course of human history and make right this wrong.
And I
Well,
think
and this
people
is
like
happening all over, that
Yeah,
region of the world. I mean, it's happening in Africa, and it's happening all over the Middle East,
yeah.
and one thing that blows
Sudan,
me away
Congo.
right now is that all of the media attention seems to be focused on Iran and the, Strait of Hormuz, and yet we're not paying attention to what the fuck Israel's doing right now. They are
Lebanon.
attempting to finish the job in Gaza. I don't know if either one of you saw I saw a reel this morning about the Israeli soldiers had 60 Palestinians crammed in the back of a fucking garbage
Yeah,
truck,
I saw that.
and they opened it up, and bodies started falling out. Of course, I think they were all alive still, but liquid and shit started coming out. They transported these people in a fucking garbage truck. So we're not paying attention to that enough. And then what the fuck's going on in Lebanon? How did Lebanon become part of this war against Iran? What? I mean,
because
we're starting to.
Hezbollah allegedly bombed them in response to the death of Ayatollah Khomeini, so they have to come in and, of course, fight terrorism on their northern border. And now we have to create a buffer zone because we can't feel safe, and we need the Israelis on the northern border to feel safe in their own space. So we have to invade Lebanon up to the Litani River, blow up everything, literally set villages on fire, occupy 600 other villages. I mean,
A repeat
And
of Gaza is what they're
they
trying to
also
do.
they
they're
are.
also
They
warning.
literally said they want to turn it into a Han Yunis.
Yeah. They
So
literally
yeah,
said that, like,
so
the Druze and the Christians, if you're harboring Muslims, that, like, you are gonna be charged as, like, harboring a criminal. So the new Anne Frank is not a Jewish person in Amsterdam in 1943. It's a Muslim person in southern Lebanon. You get a knock on the door and you're like, "Oh, do you have any, Muslims in in your floorboards, your attic?" And then if you do, they might kill you. I mean, this is the Israeli Knesset, the parliament. They just passed a law for the first time since Nazi Germany, where the summary execution of more than 11,000 hostages for one ethnic group and not the other. So, like, if the Palestinian committed a crime, it's like the hangman's noose. But if a Israeli
If a
person does it,
Palestinian kills an Israeli, their penalty is the death penalty by
yeah,
hanging. If an
yeah,
Israeli kills a Palestinian, they get a celebration. That
right,
part's not official law, but that's what ends up happening. And you saw that there was a gang rape that had taken place in one of
hmm
the Israeli prisons. And when they tried to prosecute the people who had perpetrated this, the Israelis started fucking revolting and going and protesting out in front of the prison and had
right to
made
rape law,
such
yeah,
yes, and had such a fucking they had made such a to-do about it that they actually got these guys off from their crimes so that yeah, because Palestinian lives don't matter, so much
no,
so that we are actual human garbage you can put in a compactor, and I saw that on Facebook and I read somebody's comment, and one of the comments was just they should have turned it on. And so many
Yeah,
people liked, loved, and were commenting, "Oh, hell yeah,
mhm,
brother." And
yeah.
it's just
It's
like, how
disgusting.
far have we
It's
gotten
disgusting.
that you can look at another human being and be like, "No, you're not worthy of life." And then I'm supposed to believe that somehow somebody who can't say genocide is going to stand on business for healthcare. I deserve to have my fucking medication because this isn't my fault that I have psoriatic arthritis. Do I think you're going to stand up for me getting my medication and having a dignified life when you won't even acknowledge that there are human beings being put in a trash compactor with your fucking tax dollars that are paying for that? That there is an entire school in Manab that has been blown up, little girls in their backpacks that have been blown up, and parents who thought they were just sending their kid to school that day. I mean, those parents probably thought how fucking lucky they are that their little girl gets to go to school and they have to be
What
blown up.
Yeah, what's even sadder about that is that this cult base that this guy has created, if that dump truck was full of Somalians in Minnesota, or even if it was filled with fucking Democrats who voted in the last election, Democrats, they would say the same fucking thing. You know, they hate everyone so much, and everything that's going on in this country is propaganda that has been created. He's created a fear and resentment and a hatred and blaming all of the problems in our country on everyone else but the true issue, which is the fucking money that is being promoted, the 1% being promoted and the rest of us left, crumbs. So, that you mentioned about them going door to door, the Anne Frank thing. That's what happened in Minnesota. ICE was literally going fucking door to door, knocking on doors, racially profiling people. That's
Yeah.
what they were fucking doing.
I mean, guess
Did
who
they
trained
enter any?
ICE? It was the IDF.
Yeah,
Like
I
it
mean,
connects
it's
really, you know.
You know how many
yeah.
people don't actually know that the IDF trains our local police departments and we send our police to Israel oftentimes so that they can be trained by the IDF in population control, people. Like,
Yeah. The
and
way
we get
George
their
Floyd
the
died,
military
like,
surplus.
yeah,
We get, yeah.
That
I mean,
that
the
right
knee,
there's a
that was an
whole
Israeli tactic.
episode of
yeah, there was that little during the Palestinian protests, the campus protests, in New York, they were starting to unleash the little autonomous robot dog that can shoot people. And everybody, all Americans were freaking out. And they're like, oh my God, we live in a dystopia. This is crazy. Who could have done this? Has been in Palestine. This has been in the West Bank and in Gaza. They use it religiously in the West Bank and Gaza because everything that is done to Palestinians and Arabs in the Levant is then exported because that's your tax dollars. That's essentially a little research and development going on with real live guinea pigs. And then they export it here, and we get exactly a George Floyd situation, an Alex Peretti, a Renee Good, because these people do not value human lives. If you can find any reason to make a group of people human garbage or cockroaches or rats or dogs or whatever the fucking thing is that they have used over the centuries to dehumanize a group of people so that they can cleanse and slaughter them, like, this is a problem that we see over and over again. And part of history is knowing a pattern, seeing the pattern, so that when you see, a government, a fascist government who is invading its neighbors, saying, we're going to door to door and we are going to find the Muslims and take them out. Yeah, you're supposed to recognize that for what it is and be like, holy shit, you guys, I thought never again meant never again. And yet, here we are. I mean, and Lebanon is such a beautiful and rich, diverse place. It actually used to be considered the Paris of the Middle East. It has so many Maronite Christians, there are Orthodox Christians, Druze, Alawites, Sunnis, Shias, there are Jews, there are so many different religions, atheists. Um, the Lebanese people are beautiful. This has nothing to fucking do with religion. And I'm tired of the state of Israel trying to, and our government, I don't want to forget, Pete Kegg's breath is also, and Donald Trump very much saying that there is a war on Christians. There's a war on Christianity. There are fucking Christians in the south of Lebanon and Tyre and Sidon, and you're not doing anything about it. They are
It's a
burning
third of the
Christian
population.
villages to the ground.
Yeah.
I mean, Israel bombed a synagogue in Isfahan. in Iran. Like, what are we doing right now? This is not a war of religion. This is a war of land. They just want land and power. Iran is not a threat to Muslims or Jews. There was a synagogue in Iran. I mean, is it the best for them? Probably not the religious freedom the way that Americans think. But it's not necessarily that it's a fucking mini Holocaust going on in that country. And Iran is bordered with Armenia. They get along just fine with Armenia. Armenia is a Christian nation. So this is not a religious thing. This is completely about assholes in power want more power, more land, and more wealth so that they can extract resources and control us. That is it.
Exactly.
Assholes in Power. I think that's a great title for maybe this podcast or another one. I don't know. So
It's the
Jackson's,
title
look,
of our
man.
times.
Yeah. You're right. It's the title of our times. I think it's a good meme that I could make and put on social media. So, hey, dude, welcome to our world, man. This is how we hang. This is how we break it down. This is how we talk about shit. We love to get on a subject and then we we dive deep into it, and I apologize for maybe not talking as much about you, but I think we covered quite a bit, and people have an idea of who you are, and what you're all about and what you stand for. So we just want to thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule for to do this with us. It's
Thank
a
you.
pleasure to finally be able to get you in this kind of an environment and talk to you and just be raw about shit. So, and I know Sierra enjoyed the hell out of it too.
Yeah,
We
I
talked
enjoy any
previously
foreign
about
policy talk. I
Yes.
never,
Great.
congressional
you know.
candidates don't really talk foreign policy much. So
Not
refreshing.
enough. Oh yeah, in the last night's debate, there was not a single foreign policy question. I was like, "What? This is like we're on the brink of World War III. We're not gonna mention Iran once." I had to like force the subject. The question was, no matter who wins, are you gonna endorse the primary victor of the Democratic Party? And I was like, I will support anyone against Victoria Sparks, but I think what's going on in genocide, no, in Gaza is a genocide. Not everyone up here agrees with me. So I had to like find a question. There's like, I won't agree with everything that they say up here, but we unfortunately live on a two-party system. And, I think I would like crawl over broken glass to vote against Victoria Sparks. So I was like, yeah, on that note, like there are some genuinely terrible people up here, so I just had to throw it in. But yeah, that was insane to me how we could not even have
But
a foreign
do
policy
you think
discussion.
they did it intentionally, knowing that if that was brought up, that
Yes.
what your stance
Well,
would
like,
be?
it wouldn't shock me. That I'll say more accurately, it would not shock me to know that because like JD is a genocide denier, liar, liar, genocide denier. When asked if he thought like what's going on in Gaza is a genocide, and if he will stop funding Israel, he said it's complicated. He doesn't. He said I have my own views on that, and I'm like, all right, so come on now. And so yeah, they don't want to ask that question. They don't want to the biggest dividing lines and everyone dogpiling on like, I think there's even like Deb Pickett said she would, this is on YouTube actually. She said she would like it's a genocide and I will fund it, which is a position I didn't even know was really obtainable. I thought it's either a genocide and you
Yeah.
won't fund it, or you don't think it's a genocide and you will fund it. Not, oh, it is a genocide. Now
I'm
it's a
an
Genocide. And
genocide.
unapologetic
Please.
genocidaire. That is a new one.
Yeah, that's
Jesus.
a position I did not think was real. It is not real, guys. But
I
yeah,
can't
it
wait
was
to edit.
insane.
I can't wait to do the editing here because there's about, I don't know, about 15 memes that I'm going to get from this just in the last, 10 minutes or so. I mean,
Yeah,
this is fabulous.
yeah.
JD Ford, liar, liar, genocide denier. Oh
Actually,
man,
somebody
you're
said
going to see that one. You're going to see that one.
JD Ford. I called him JD Fraud. All right,
Oh
JD
yeah.
means
J
genocide denier. Spelled
yeah,
with a
yeah.
J.
I've used the JD fraud before too, but liar, liar. I love
Sinister
it, man.
thing the
I
sinister thing
love it.
about that for me though is like, so I actually, when my first volunteer space that I worked in was Moms Demand Action. I don't know, Jackson, if you're familiar with them. Okay, I was gonna say they're very very active up in your area. And JD is loved by them because he constantly is somebody at the state house that will work with us, talk with us, and says that he very much values human life, values children, doesn't want to see them gunned down in their schools, doesn't want to see them, commit suicide when they're at their worst. Sounds like a good dude. You're telling me that it's complicated, genocide is complicated, seeing little Gazan children walking around with suitcases on the fucking beach because their family has been bombed is complicated. Seeing a grandfather holding his granddaughter's body, lifeless body, is complicated. Hearing Hind Rajab on the fucking phone call and then hearing her scream as she's being shot is complicated. Watching a little Lebanese girl attend her father's funeral on the first day of the ceasefire, and then 100 bombs, bunker buster bombs, dropping on Lebanon in 10 minutes, killing 300 people, including that little girl who was just at her father's funeral, is complicated.
It, one of the most touching videos I've seen, and there's so many reels out there about what's happened there. But one of them that really touched me was the one of the little boy who was crying, and I think he had a blue shirt on, no shoes, dirty as hell, had blood on him, looking for his brother. And there was a title that said his parents had been killed, and he's crying for his brother. And then he goes, he's like pointing, there he is, and his little brother's across the dirt road, and they come running together. And it was like, my God, where's the humanity with people? In what world is this fucking acceptable? So, and I hope you could find it. And I'm going to try to find it so I could share it here with people, because it was just something that blew me away. So it just gets me that somebody like JD4 can stand there and talk about having sympathy for kids getting blown away by guns in, schools, but then can't, is a
Well,
genocide denier.
that's what happens when you're trying to court
So
like AIPAC aligned donors. And the
exactly.
financials came
Yeah.
out this morning. We're gonna do our best to look into that and deep dive it. But what I will say, this is before me looking at it. If you look at what happened in Chicago, they're not going by the name AIPAC. They'll make a new proxy group
Right.
called like Elect Chicago Women or something, and that's what they'll use. Or they'll find a bunch of donors. Like imagine if you have like, I don't know, 20 AIPAC people, and then they all just donate as individuals. Then it's like, but they all know, like, hey, I got a phone call, and like, hey, this is how it kind of works behind the scenes. Is like you'll get all this like max donations from a lot of individual people, but really it's one group split amongst a lot of different people. So
Absolutely. I would not be surprised if you saw United Democracy Project. That's one of their
yeah,
Same
favorites to
bullshit.
use.
Yeah. Yeah.
And especially for JD, I wouldn't be surprised if you saw Cynthia Simon Skidget, or however you say her last name, and Deborah Simon, the Simon sisters.
I've
They
heard of
are
it. Yeah.
notorious funders of AIPAC, J Street, and Democrats, but
We
also
we
Road
actually did
Israel.
we actually did an episode on the election there in Chicago. We broke it down and talked about the money that was poured into there, and how many different groups. I think there was Women of Chicago, and I mean there was just a bunch of them that they poured money into that to defeat Kate Abou-Ghazala. Is that how
Yeah,
you say
Cat
her name?
Abu
Yeah,
Yeah.
Abu Ghazali.
Yeah. Yeah, Abou-Ghazali. So, we did an episode on that, and we dove into it, broke it down, and it was just sickening what they did. But that's where we are at. So I hope you get to dive into those finances, and then maybe share some of them with us, give us a text or something. You have my number, and I'm sure we can get you two hooked up to where you have each other's phone numbers, since you've met right now, since
Okay.
she finally got to meet the guy who talked to her when she was holding the door for him, which, I think
I'm
that,
surprised that
that,
I'm not surprised you don't recognize me. I looked fucking homeless.
yeah,
I
that,
looked like a
but that
bum that
says,
day.
It's been
like I
a
said,
long
though, that says
campaign
a
trail.
lot
My
about you.
brain is like just
Yeah.
putty at this point.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
get that
I can
spiritually.
understand that. I can understand that. But this is a perfect example, Jackson. People remember you when they meet you. Okay. Even though you may not, but you made an impression on Sierra because you were the only one that fucking said anything to her. So uh just keep doing what you're doing, man. And we're gonna do everything we can. Neither one of us can vote for you, which fucking sucks. But, you know, we're
I've
gonna do
already voted
everything we
20
can.
times, mail-in vote. I bus them in from all across the state.
Professor at coffee and asked him to vote for you. He said he doesn't like his Ukrainian congresswoman who's not for Ukraine. I think is how I immediately knew what he was talking about, who he was talking about. I was like, ah, I've got somebody for you. So
So,
I
did you know he
appreciate
was in this district? Did you know that,
I
your,
didn't know. I didn't know my
okay,
professor was in the district. No,
was in
he
the
was just
district?
making a
Okay,
shitty
cool,
comments about how he was disgruntled
cool.
constituent, and I was just like, huh. Well, if you don't
So
like her,
So, see, Jackson, Sierra got you a vote. So there you
Thank
go,
you.
buddy.
Thank you.
So, but hey, thanks for joining us. Before we leave, tell people how they can get a hold of you, what's the best outlet, how to find you on your socials. I think everything's under the same heading, but you know, just tell us briefly how people can find you.
If you guys want to help this campaign, you can go to social media and type in Jackson Franklin for Congress. But most importantly, we have 19 days until Election Day. Right now is the best time to donate ever. And if you go to jacksonfranklinforcongress.com and support this grassroots campaign, as well as in politics, there's the three T's: time, talent, and treasure. If you can knock doors, ring the phones for our campaign, spread the message online, that would be your time. We'd really appreciate it to help out the cause. Your talent, however you can use your skills to support this campaign, we'll take it. And I already mentioned treasure. Please donate. We are grassroots. We're not going to raise $300,000 from corporate PACs. So we need all the help that we can get. And I'm very optimistic and eager to affect the change that we need in this country. So please go to jacksonfranklinforcongress.com, reach out to us, email, sign up to volunteer, and I'm excited to continue this fight after the primary. So thank you guys so much for having me.
Oh, hey, and we're excited for you, man. There couldn't be a better representative of our state if you can get in there and get elected, and I have a lot of confidence in that happening. So, and if people want to find out what took place last night with the Indiana Democratic Five, I think is that where you can Google it, or is it Hamilton
Yeah,
County,
I don't
or
know where it's posted fully. Their
okay,
battery died. They were live streaming it, and the battery died
yeah,
like
and it
45
died.
minutes in, which is
Right,
unfortunate. But
right,
I think yeah, the Fifth District Democrat Facebook page has like at least the first half. I think maybe the Hamilton
uh,
County Young Democrats maybe live streamed the whole thing. So though
okay,
I haven't seen the full clip yet. So but we'll definitely be
yeah.
posting about it on our Facebook and Instagram. At least our
Yeah, and
Facebook group.
find it on YouTube, and I'll do some searching and try to find it and put the link on here too, so maybe people can just click on it there and find that, because I need to watch the whole thing too. I only got to see parts of it also, but what I saw was, you know, I could pretty much, you know, tell you how the book ended. So, you know, by
It
watching
basically was yeah after that.
how the story unfolded. So man, thanks. I know Sierra's uh, thrilled to have met you finally, and
yeah,
Like
thank you for talking
likewise.
foreign policy. Truly, I
Of
mean,
course.
really, no candidate does that, and especially not a congressional candidate, just because no one seems to understand why foreign policy matters to you at home, and that's crazy to me. So,
Yeah.
and
Oh,
it
yeah,
should
the
matter to all
Democratic
of us.
establishment will even say, "People don't vote on foreign policy." What was the
Oh yeah, they
last
do.
election if not, like, Harris lost
Yeah,
because of her positions, but yeah,
foreign policy.
absolutely,
Yeah,
but
yeah. So hey, thanks for joining us, man. I appreciate it, and
thank you s yeah,
thanks for watching our pod, and I hope you get to have gotten to know Jackson a little bit and who he is, and realize that, you know, when we invite somebody on here, when we talk about an issue, we're going to break it down and try to make it make sense. So thanks for joining us. Have a great day, Jackson. We're all for you, buddy.
thank you so much. May 5th, make sure to get out to vote. Thank you so much,
vote
Kurt,
for
thank you
the
so much, Sierra.
Indiana Zoran Mamdani. Oh,
Yeah,
There you
younger,
go.
angrier Bernie Sanders, right?
hells yeah.
Hamilton County, Madison, Delaware, Tipton, Howard, and Grant. Go out and vote.
And if you hold a door for him, he's going to fucking say hi to you.
Hey,
So
that actually means a lot. Okay, I mean,
absolutely. That's why I'm saying it. It
Human
it spoke
absolutely
decency,
means a
volumes
lot.
to
imagine.
me. I mean, if
It,
you were willing to just the person holding the fucking door, you felt needed respect and to be treated like a human. I think you're going to take that shit to Congress because, I mean, again, no other candidate had done that, and they were all progressive candidates or progressive candidates. So,
Yeah. And I bet you would have a hard time naming any of them. So, because they didn't make an impression on you. So,
No, I really couldn't
all right.
actually.
All right.
So we're
Well,
going to
hey,
end
have
it
a
on
great
that
day.
note. Hey, thanks a lot for joining us.
It was nice
We'll
meeting
see you
you.
next time.
Nice meeting you.